Hello, and thank you for joining us today. Our project called Code Response is a part of the Processing's new fellowship in which we use projection mapping to support a live theater performance in LA. This project, which is still in progress, aims to produce a groundbreaking hip-hop theater production that uplifts youth voices, integrates multidisciplinary art forms, and celebrates the cultural vibrancy of Los Angeles through the lens of hip-hop culture. Throughout this highly collaborative process, the three of us have worked with high school students and 4 organizations: Unusual Suspects Theater Company, Street Poets, Noisy Props, and Versa Style. This project engages high school students aged 13 to 19 in a 3-phase process. During phase 1, while we waited for the story and script to be developed, we focused on introducing students to coding concepts and projection mapping so that they could provide informed feedback and suggestions on our approach. We also began scaffolding our technical system, gathering hardware and prototyping our implementation for the live production. We're currently wrapping up the production phase where students have been rehearsing their play. Here, we have developed the visual for our projections, tested our projections on site, and have continuously collaborated with community partners to coordinate technical theater elements and projections. Finally, the finished play and projections will be soon performed before a crowd of about 200 in a day. The play that students have created is entitled Live from LA, and it centers on a group of teens who rally their fighting community to save a beloved cultural center from gentrification in an LA Latinx neighborhood. The action is set against the backdrop of a community endangered by racial, economic, and political violence, and generational conflict concerning how one should respond to attacks against their community. The students have engaged in a creative process with critical thought and vulnerability, as they have crafted the script to reflect their personal stories about themselves and their loved ones, and drawn from historical social movements and thinkers.
And we use projection mapping to ground the play's action in historical and cultural context. As the characters grapple with the current political moment and threats against their community, we provide visuals made of related political imagery that invite the audience to draw connections between the present and the past. We aim for the audience to feel the weight of this moment, not only through the experience of the characters on stage, but also through the legacy of the generations who came before them. And there are 3 central themes guiding our project: remixing, splicing, cutting, and amplifying historical protest imagery against the novel ideas and messages presented by the students. Second, call and response. This involves being in constant dialogue with one's community, history, and environment. We've provided calls to the students, and they've responded by providing thoughtful ideas and images that reflect their personal experiences and sources of inspiration. Lastly, our work builds on existing community-oriented design frameworks, centering the perspectives and desires of high school students. We've remained accountable to these students, beginning this process by soliciting their ideas and continuously asking for their feedback. Students responded to us with activists they admire, slogans and chants that inspire them, and the LA protests and movements that resonate with them. In turn, we responded by developing projection visuals that directly use the references they shared. We deepened our participatory approach by working directly with one student who volunteered to get more involved in our technical process. For the sake of this presentation, we'll refer to him by his character name, Jorge. Since Jorge didn't have prior coding experiences, we designed a custom curriculum to teach him how to code in P5. For our one-on-one sessions, we developed a novel collage tool shown on the left-hand side, a visual interface that allowed users to arrange images directly on the screen while automatically generating the underlying P5 code. As images were added or edited, the P5 code was generated in real time, allowing users to create their collages outside the tool. Our curriculum for Jorge was based on the concepts that appear in the code generated by his collages. For example, we explained how he would go about uploading and transforming images, as well as how to use basic functions in P5. Our goal was to ensure that he not only understood how the tool and collages were made, but how he could use P5 moving forward. We used TypeScript to create our own collage tool and React to create the user interface components, such as buttons and the code editor. Then we used P5 to create the canvas, which included developing the ability to mask and edit images. Finally, we hosted our editor on GitHub pages to make it fully open access. Each collages can be exported as a zip file, preserving the raw data so we could reuse and remix them for the final visuals. Using this tool, Jorge, other students, and collaborators created protest collages that we later remixed them for the official performance. So later during our Q&A session, we'll be happy to delve deeper and answer any questions concerning the collage tool.
The control interface that we will use to cue the multi-screen collages and animations during the play was also developed from scratch. In our system, we developed custom data structures to define and trigger the cues. And these cues are defined as initial and final animation parameters exposed in our custom shader. We also mixed custom shaders to create animations that directly use the still images from the collage tool that Jiwon was just describing. The user interface for the control system was developed completely in JavaScript, while the rendering was done with P5. And then finally, we developed our control interface to display and combine P5 animations and videos created outside of P5. So essentially, we developed the control interface so that we could easily synchronize our projections with the live performance. We use one browser to render our projector on site, and we use open source tools like OBS to send our web collages to the projectors. And we then connect to a local network and use WebSockets to trigger the scenes across all of the browsers. For the play, our projections will accompany 2 scenes, but here we will only focus on the final climatic moment. In this scene, young members of the community stage a protest during a press conference discussing the city's plans to gentrify the neighborhood. The protest begins with Jorge, a nerdy hacker, projecting his artwork on the neighboring neighborhood buildings. Then, a song is performed by a young rapper from the community, where the phrase, "We're still here," is emphasized. As the song ends, a young girl performs a poem about the resilience of the Latinx community, growing flowers through concrete and bearing ripe fruit with history. Here, we have flowers growing from collaged images growing from the crevices of the buildings. And then another young woman takes the stage to deliver a moving speech detailing the power of those who dream, dance, and soar despite it all. During this, the flowers have blossomed into a large, powerful one and morphed into a butterfly large enough to carry the community to safety. And finally, the crowd erupts into chants shouting, "We're still here," while honoring Mrs. Vidalia, a woman who has recently been disappeared. The scene ends with the sound of police sirens disrupting the chants. The music halts abruptly and the crowd flees, leaving the stage empty except for the glowing projection still flickering defiantly against the buildings. Before we end today, we do want to emphasize a few key reflections and takeaways from this design process. So firstly, our projections were just one element of a production that brought together 5 organizations. While projections were our main focus, they weren't at the center of the play itself. This meant our work had to integrate smoothly into a bigger effort rather than standing alone. So we created the collage tool right at the beginning as a way to scaffold the design and technical development. This gave us the flexibility to prototype, test ideas, and adjust as the creative process unfolded without forcing the technology to be the centerpiece. And it also meant that we could stay responsive while still keeping pace with the project. And to be clear, the collage tool wasn't about making something polished or perfect. It was about quickly experimenting with aesthetics and technical ideas. By having this space for fast prototyping, we were able to evolve concepts in real time alongside the scripts and rehearsals. And reminder, the script was being developed as this process was happening. And because so many organizations and students were involved, everything had to be in motion at once: script development, rehearsals, feedback, and technical design. The collage tool let students and collaborators engage in the process early without slowing down the more complex technical build. And the final component of this is the fact that we established a visual structure early on, so that contributions from students and community members all fit within a consistent aesthetic. And this approach was rooted in social practices and familiar visual language, which made the involvement feel authentic and cohesive. As a reminder, the official Live from LA play and projections will be performed next week, first for a community showing and then for a public audience. Until then, we are finalizing our projection animations and coordinating with the students and other facilitators to ensure all elements of the production blend smoothly. Thank you for joining us, and we look forward to hearing any comments and questions during the Q&A session.